beyond. It is 1 p.m. in Damascus. It's noon in Madrid. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is World One, live from London. The specter of Syria's civil war is hanging over the UN this morning. World leaders are heading to New York for the annual meeting of the General Assembly. Despite the pressing need for a breakthrough, the prospects for peace are worsening by the day. Now, a report by a British-based charity is urging the UN to take a stand before more children are forced to suffer.
Children. What is the UN going to do about this?
What drives this home for many is the testimony included in the report from some of the children who were caught in the crossfire. This is 11-year-old Omar. He says he was most frightened when shells fell close to his home. He went on to say, "I was so frightened, I was so scared, my tongue was frozen. I couldn't even talk." Let's also introduce you to Khalid, who is 15. Well, he said he was arrested and his hands were tied with a plastic cord. He then goes on to say, "They hung me up from the ceiling by my wrists with my feet off the ground. Then I was beaten." And then we introduce you to Noor. She's 9 years old and says she was happy in Syria and used to play football and other games. But once the violence started, she said, there was nothing that they did not use to hurt us with. Well, let's get more on this from Save the Children's country director for Lebanon. Ruba Khoury joins us now live from CNN Beirut. Ruba, thank you very much for being with us. Give us an idea. Are children directly being targeted by either the regime or rebel forces that you know of or that you've heard?
Through our work for the last year with the children in the region and the surrounding countries around Syria, yes, all the testimonies of the children, it has been repeated and consistent.
This war-torn country. Well, the relentless civil war in Syria certainly will weigh heavily at the opening session of the UN General Assembly. In just a few hours from now, U.S. President Barack Obama will be one of the first leaders to address the assembly. We want to see what newspapers around the world are saying about this. Let's begin in Canada and this headline in the Globe and Mail saying troubling tensions cloud United Nations. It goes on to say this is the week of speeches at a time when words can be fatal. Rarely have so many crucial issues in the Middle East been so dangerously balanced just as leaders make their annual New York trek. There is this headline in the Asia edition of the Wall Street Journal. UN stalemate on Syria clouds meeting. The article says the United Nations' inability to resolve the Syrian crisis is highlighting how competing interests have hampered the body's ability to tackle some big global issues. And finally, there's this comment piece in The Guardian, which is headlined, "If the Syria crisis widens fault lines at a divided UN, then just wait for Iran." And it goes on to say the conflict is already spilling over Syria's borders at a time when another Middle East conflict, possibly even darker, with even darker consequences, is constantly threatening to break out between Israel and Iran. Well, as we were just talking about Save the Children's report, well, that is the latest indication of the horrors unfolding in Syria. So far, the world has been powerless to stop them, but with so many people pressing for action, is there any plan B? Well, CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh is following that for us from Beirut. He joins us now live. And Nick, there has been some talk about a plan B, but is it any different from anything else that's been discussed?
The key thing to a plan B, as suggested by Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Hamid.
Stating indeed. All right, Nick, thank you very much for that. Nick Payton-Walsh there live for us from Beirut. So as we've been talking about the UN General Assembly opening session today, Syria no doubt will be the topic of interest for many that are attending the UN General Assembly. World Affairs reporter Elise Labott joins us now live from New York. Elise, let's talk a little bit more about that. It may not be on the official agenda, but it's certainly the topic everyone wants addressed.
Yes, Monita. Well, certainly a lot of issues that the world wants to address, particularly this consulate attack.
Well, it certainly will look good for her if she decides to launch her campaign for 2016, if that's what she's deciding to do.
But, you know, maybe this is a good photo op for that.
Exactly. All right, Hillary, that's all right. Elise, thank you very much for that. Elise Labott there in New York. You are watching World One live from London. Australian stock markets are off to a weaker start, and this is how the euro is performing against the other major global currencies. A lot of arrows pointing down. Well, investors will be closely watching a meeting between the German Chancellor and the chief of Europe's central bank in the coming hours. Europe's debt crisis will be the focus yet again. Spain, the government will announce its drastic budget cuts later in the week. In the Spanish capital, authorities are bracing for protesters to march on Parliament later today. CNN's Madrid bureau chief Al Goodman joins us now for more on that. Al.
Hi, Monita. Well, at this hour, just a little after noon local time here in Madrid.
Thank you. Al Goodman there in Madrid. You're watching World One live from London. One of the world's oldest games, but it's struggled to capture the world's attention. So one man is hatching big plans to change the fortunes of chess. He wants to take the game into the bright lights of the international stage. CNN's Aaron McLaughlin reports he's starting right here in London. You're watching World One live from London. The Syrian conflict as seen from a sniper's nest in Homs. Coming up, a startling look at a city that's become a battlefield. And while UN delegates ponder how to end the war in Syria, the regime there appears ever more determined to crush the opposition. Bill Neely has been to the city of Homs and took up positions with government forces.
He is ready to kill. A Syrian.
We are now learning how U.S. forces in Afghanistan fought off a deadly assault earlier this month. The Taliban attack on Camp Bastion damaged or destroyed more American aircraft than any single incident in decades. As Barbara Starr reports, the new first-hand details are coming from U.S. Marines.
We see flaming aircrafts, we see the enemy.
More than 1 million people have been affected by severe flooding and landslides in northeastern India. Officials tell CNN around 100,000 people have been made homeless in the state of Assam. Scores of people have been killed by the rising waters following months of heavy rain. Authorities are now working to prevent the spread of disease. And following developments, she joins us now live from New Delhi. So, Nima, there are a few things that we do know about the situation. What we do know is that monsoons happen at this time of year in that part of India. We also do know that monsoons are often seen as a good thing for the agricultural industry, particularly in that region for farmers, because it irrigates their land. What we don't know is why are more and more people being affected by it in such a deadly way?
Well, Monita, flooding is an annual occurrence in Assam. Not only does it receive a lot of rainfall, especially during the monsoon season, but also...
All right, Sumnima, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Sumnima Udas there live for us in New Delhi. Well, let's get more now on the situation in India and the rest of the world weather. Let's go to our meteorologist, Mari Ramos, at the World Weather Center. Mari, hi.
Hi, Monita. Yeah, very interesting, the report there from Sumi. You know what? One of the things that happens here in India, of course, is the amount of... do that over the next couple of days. Back to you.
Mari, thank you. You're watching World One live from London. A controversial call proved decisive in the NFL Monday night. Well, the NFL's big Monday night football game ended in controversy with a late touchdown and a storm of criticism putting the spotlight back on replacement referees. Alex Thomas has more on that and the other top sports stories. Hi, Alex.
Yeah, Monita, this is serious. I think NFL bosses are going to come under huge pressure now to reopen the negotiations.
Phew.
I know you were worried.
I was. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. You're watching World One live from London. Head in the clouds, and we're not talking about Alex. Supporters of Barack Obama go to new heights to give back. You are watching World One live from London. We are approaching almost 7 a.m. in New York. It's almost 1 p.m. for you in Berlin, and it's almost 8 p.m. in Tokyo. Well, let's take a look at some of the other stories that we're talking about here on World One. If you can remember a world before Facebook, you may remember MySpace. Remember them? The social networking site that a lot of people abandoned or once Facebook caught on? Well, now MySpace is coming back and looking pretty different. The new, cleaner look is expected to be finished by the end of November. The revamp's been helped along by some famous friends. Pop star and actor Justin Timberlake was such a fan, he became a part owner of the site. Well, speaking of musicians, the Green Day frontman Billy Joe Armstrong has checked himself into rehab after an onstage meltdown last week. The singer flew into a rage after concert organizers told the band to cut short its set to make way for the next act, R&B singer Usher. Well, Armstrong screamed obscenities, smashed his guitar, and even took a swipe at Justin Bieber. No, not the Biebs. Well, the band later apologized for for his behavior. And think of the good you could do if you had $250,000 to spend. That's how much a bottle of the nail polish favored by Kelly Osbourne will set you back. You see that there? Well, the reality TV star wore the diamond nail varnish to Sunday night's Emmy Awards. So far, Jennifer Lopez is said to be the only other person who's worn it. 250 grand? Really? For that? Really? Well, with exactly 6 weeks to go until the U.S. presidential election, some of Barack Obama's biggest fans are taking his race into space. They're launching a stratospheric stunt to try and raise money for his campaign. None other than Jeannie Mose can explain.
It's one thing to send your 4-year-old son's favorite toy train into the CNN. New York.
Wow. You're watching World One live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for joining us. Piers Morgan Tonight is next, right here on CNN.